The Sacramento Kings got their revenge against the Golden State Warriors in this year's play-in tournament, so let's talk about what exactly they did to pull it off. This video is brought to you by Squarespace, but a little bit more about them later. The Kings were running a ton of their offense through Keegan Murray, and it had a very high rate of success. The Kings opened up the game running this veer stagger action for Keegan Murray, where Keon Ellis comes and screens Klay, while Sabonis and Fox run a dribble handoff up top. And you can see Curry call out to him to fight through the screen and stay on Keegan, but Klay is a little bit slow to cover, so Keegan's going to use that second screen from Sabonis to get the pass, and he takes one dribble to keep Klay hung up on the screen before knocking down the jumper. Here, Barnes is going to bring the ball up and pump fake the three, and it gets Trayce Jackson-Davis to bite, and that's going to open up the avenue for the give and go. Draymond switches onto Barnes on the drive, and Steph is going to be ball watching a little bit to see if he needs to help, but this is just going to leave Keegan Murray wide open in the corner for three. Early in the half court here, Keegan is trailing Sabonis, and Fox is going to get under Wiggins. And the defense should be communicating here that Fox is about to set a flare screen for Keegan to get the pass, but that communication doesn't happen, and so he's able to get a wide open look. They went back to that stagger action from earlier, where Keegan comes up off the two screens to get the feed from Fox, and this time Klay does a good job chasing him over the screen, but Keegan just puts him on his hip and he puts the ball on the floor to work his way into the paint until he finds the look that he wants. In the third quarter, we saw them bust out this twirl action where Lyles is going to cut in between these two screens, and then Keegan is going to come up off the second one to get the pass, and then he's going to run this side pick and roll with AlexHoops so that he can snake his way into the mid-range and get an open pull-up jumper. In this late clock situation, they bail out to AlexHoops, and it ends up working out because Draymond had been sagging off of AlexHoops so much so that when AlexHoops and Keegan Murray get into this dribble handoff, he's way too far away to get out there and contest, and it gives up a three. With all this action that they were running for Keegan Murray, it worked out really nicely when they would run offense away from him and just camp him in a weak corner, so that when the defense overcommitted like Draymond does here, forcing Trayce Jackson-Davis to rotate, it would leave Keegan Murray wide open for an easy shot. Another big factor was the Kings were simply knocking down the mid-range shots that the Warriors were willing to give up. And that's something that's going to happen when you sag off of shooters and force them to punish you in the mid-range whenever Draymond was in drop coverage and not really bothering to close out. Now, since they were fine with giving up mid-range looks, they leave Looney camped out in the paint here and surrender all of this space. So the Kings had Sabonis set this wide screen for Fox, and it's going to put Curry in front of Sabonis and allow him to get into that open space. Mitchell feeds him and he attacks the basket, and it's going to pull Moody in off of the perimeter, and Sabonis capitalizes on this by finding Mitchell for the catch and shoot three. I want to talk a little bit about what the Kings did defensively because they had a unique approach that really hindered Steph Curry's ability to be maximized. But before we do, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website building platform for creators to set themselves apart from the crowd online. Whether you're trying to share your work with more people or grow a brand, Squarespace makes it super simple to build an awesome website where you can engage with your audience and reach more people. I have absolutely zero web design experience, but Squarespace's super simple user interface cuts out all of the frustrating parts of building a website and turns it into a fun and simple process. You can make a completely personalized website with their guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. You can choose from professionally curated layout and styling options to build a unique website from the ground up. And they make it super easy to manage your search engine optimization so that you can find your audience and they can find you. Make checkout effortless for your customers with simple but powerful payment tools. You can accept credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, and even in eligible countries, you can offer customers the option to buy now and pay later with Afterpay or ClearPay. If you've always wanted to build a website but you just don't know where to start, then Squarespace should be your first step. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/AlexHoops to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to it. To try and contain Steph and not allow him to get easy looks coming off of pin downs, the Kings were top locking him, forcing the Warriors to have to try and generate offense through some of the other guys on the floor. And on this possession, it leads to a bad pass out of bounds. The Warriors like to try and get Curry into space using some really high pick and rolls, so the Kings made sure to pick him up full court, and when the screen comes, Sabonis is going to show on the other side of the screen to force the ball out of Curry's hands, and this is going to be an ongoing trend of the Kings being more than happy to let the rest of the Warriors offense try to create good looks if it means they get the ball out of Curry's hands. Now, another big reason why the Kings were able to shut Steph out of the offense a lot of the time was because they put Keon Ellis on him, and Ellis did a fantastic job of containing him, trying to cut up for DHOs and staying glued to him on the perimeter. Initially, Keegan Murray is top locking Steph, but the Kings are comfortable switching on this screen because they know that Ellis is going to be the one switching onto Curry, and when Curry tries to create space and attack off the dribble, Ellis just sticks his hand in there and he nabs the steal. And it wasn't just Steph that Keon Ellis was making things difficult for. Anytime the Warriors were trying to execute dribble handoffs, Ellis was prepared and able to navigate the screens and get right back into the space of the ball handler to disrupt their dribble and force turnovers. One of the byproducts of playing Steph Curry so high and forcing it out of his hands is that they'd end up in situations where Draymond would get fed on the short roll, and the Kings would then have to defend him from there. Knowing this, they'd have the elbow man do an initial dig, and Fox looks as though he's going to step up, but the Kings are well aware of the cut coming from the weak side. So after initially digging to make Draymond think that he's committing, Fox jumps back to contest the lob pass, and he's going to disrupt it and force the miss. Once Draymond would get the feed in the short roll, Sacramento was clearly prepared for what Draymond is going to look to do, which is usually pass to the corner if the low man on the weak side is pulled too far in. So when Fox hedges and recovers, he's going to swipe at the ball while Draymond is prepping to make that pass. On this possession, you'll see Draymond call for Wiggins to go screen for Steph, and he tells Kuminga to go to the other side of the floor. And what they're going to try and do is get Curry into open space cutting to the basket, with the Kings thinking it's going to be a dribble handoff. But Fox reads the play to perfection, and he times his jump to snatch the ball right out of the air. Some of the Warriors' spacing issues flared up as well, with Curry creating an advantage on this drive and finding a wide open Kuminga on the wing. And instead of shooting it, he passes to Podziemski, who already has a man rotating onto him, and instead of generating an open look, the possession ends with Kuminga settling for a tough mid-range shot, and Keon Ellis actually manages to get the block. The tenacity of Keon Ellis when fighting over screens paid off when the officials decided to call illegal picks when they were trying to get Curry open, and in this particular clip, it actually saved a three. You can kind of tell that they were pretty much fine with Curry getting inside and forcing him to have to finish, as long as they weren't giving up a ton of threes, because that's where they wanted to force the other guys to try and hurt them. Now, another big factor was Sacramento was pushing very hard in transition. They were oftentimes finding themselves with a numbers advantage, with Kuminga still trailing this play and Lyles cutting up the middle, and it forces Chris Paul to stay pulled in more towards the paint than stuck on the corner, and Sabonis sells it to keep him off of the corner so that Barnes can get an open look. Sabonis gets switched onto Curry here, so he's going to put up the initial shot, but what that does for the Kings is allow Sabonis to run out in transition so that when he does get the pass, he has a much smaller defender in Curry on him that he's able to finish over top of. Now, the big elephant in the room is the fact that Klay Thompson shot 0 of 11 from the field. And while the Kings did do a great job of executing throughout the game, I'm sure Sacramento was thrilled with their game plan when they continuously saw Klay miss shot after shot after shot. But the Kings got in, got out, and if Keegan Murray continues to play like he did in this game, and the Kings are able to leverage good defensive scheme into consistent stops in the half court, then they're going to be a problem for anybody that they have to play in this postseason. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like this, be sure to subscribe and leave a like. That's the easiest way to support me and help me continue making content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.